remarks. Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Recording in progress.
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm glad I said that so loud that it'll be on the WCTV version of this meeting. Welcome, everybody. We're going to begin our meeting this morning by asking Attorney Cross to share information with us. What have you got for us this morning, Non? Broken glasses. Okay, that could be a problem if you have to read something.
I have approved my review of draft QCC contract. Got up changes. If you have any comments or concerns, let me know. Do you feel we have a need to sit and meet with the sheriff, talk about it before we finalize it? Or
If the sheriff and our attorney are comfortable with it, I don't see a need to have another meeting, but
I see no agree.
The issue I think is going to be,
well, I don't think we want 4 years, do we? I mean, I would suspect that it's 2 with a voluntary third. It's hard to figure out what they've done. They say they did that, but then they show 4 years term. So I just have to straighten all that out.
yeah, I think I want it here to be the 2 years with 1 year extension. Awesome. But the cost is increased, and so council will need to weigh in on this year's budget.
Well, I think the cost, yeah, definitely. I don't know what the parameters were in their assumptions or budgeting, but the cost went up 4% over where it was in 2024 and has an additional 4% factored into the other 2 years. And then it talks about us for any renewals beyond, which you just have to deal with at the time. They talk about measuring the price index medical. There's a particular scale. I'm sure we want to get locked into that. You can always agree to it. And of course, any 4th year option or 3rd year option would be subject to our.
They have to be approved.
So I start.
I like having the 3rd year optional though. We use optional extension. So we
Actually, and it worked out well for us because the way we wrote it in the last contract, which it was on the same terms and conditions as the 2nd year, so we had no increase at 3rd year. This year, I think they learned, so they've got that factored in for another 4% for that.
So didn't the base price go up beyond the 4%?
It did in 24. I don't think it did in 25.
I thought the new contract, the base was higher than last year's base, but
It is higher.
okay, by more than 4% though.
Okay, that I
Do you recall, Brad?
no, but I'm thinking
It seemed like it's like $100,000 more on the base price, and then there was an escalator in subsequent years. But I've slept.
well, definitely the base price in 25 is more than it was in 24 by roughly 4%, my calculations.
Okay.
And that would be.
Well, we'll have a chance to talk to council tonight, so we can see where they're at and try to nail down the base price and whether that's going to require additional appropriation to fill out the rest of 2025.
The base price for 25-26 is 977,572.
Which I thought was about $100,000.
I thought it was I thought we were in 8s.
Then 24, 25.
Well, I think in that down for tonight's meeting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What else have you got?
I've been asked to vet the possibility of commissioners enacting a resolution that would prohibit the carrying of firearms, county employees other than bona fide law enforcement officers. It's possible. And yeah,
And do we have a working definition of law enforcement officer? Is that a
I think, yeah, there is a body of law that deals with it. I mean, obviously it's,
I mean, I seems like I recall in the last couple of months, the coroner has made comments that coroner and deputies were law enforcement.
we are not officers, at least not according to the websites I found.
Okay.
Here's a good summary of it. Might want to look at it quite a bit better. Summarize this. It's part of the law enforcement manual, I think.
I just want to make sure that if we go this route, that it's clear to everybody who we mean by law enforcement officers.
Correct.
And the portion that I highlighted in yellow is the section that would enable it, because generally the whole gist of this chapter 354711.14 is to limit the ability to pass local legislation that restricts the Second Amendment rights. Yeah. So I agree. We need to have that clear. And then the subject to clause is just subject to 3428-7-2 is your right to take your gun to work law. It says you
Okay.
all but a half dozen designated schools, facilities for the disabled, what have you. You cannot prohibit an employee from having their gun with them as long as it's locked in their car, out of sight, either locked in the glove box, truck. And if it's in cabin area, it has to be, in the vehicle itself has to also be locked. Okay. And that's been around for quite a while.
But they can be prohibited from bringing it into the building. It has to, if it comes on to,
and already they can be prohibited from carrying it.
Okay.
In the course of their performance of their duties outside of their vehicle.
Okay.
You know, of course, we're talking about a personal vehicle, not their
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not the county vehicle.
on a county issue. That's the key statute. So just look at that. The rest of them are pretty vanilla. It's always 5 or 6 section statute.
Okay.
And then
Well, just for a statement, I am 100% supportive of the Second Amendment and individuals' right to carry a firearm. I have concerns about employees at the county carrying a firearm in the course of their regular duties. If they use that weapon, our liability insurance and as the county, we're liable for any action that they do while they're working. Doesn't matter what capacity they are, whether it be the coroner or treasurer or whatever. I mean, if that's done, we're liable. And that's where my concerns are that,
well, the deputies are very definitely county employees.
so, but I would not want to prohibit anybody's right to bring their weapon to.
Elected county official, which still brings, I think, him within the purview of creating liability for the county if there's a problem. Every time we get sued, whether it's an official that gets sued, we also have the county name.
Right.
Sheriff's an example of that.
So would we have to create an ordinance then in order?
I would recommend an ordinance. I mean, I don't know that I've ever really been able to pin jello on the wall with precision to tell you what the difference between a resolution and an ordinance is. But
People seem to take ordinances more seriously.
yeah, that seems to be the situation. So that's really what I've got.
So are
still needing,
You would need to actually direct you to draft an ordinance.
yeah, and I
at
thought,
this point.
it may be something that you want to engage in some prior discussions with impacted officials or
Absolutely. But I think it makes sense for us to move.
I think the question was because there's some statutes that are kind of weird. One statute says that if the sheriff has to take custody, it's the coroner who will serve the arrest warrant. And now it was amended to say unless the sheriff has a deputy, chief deputy, which he does.
So then the chief deputy would do that instead of the coroner.
My guess is it wouldn't be fighting for the opportunity. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that no,
Bobby, did we lose our
Yep.
lost the owl?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Well, it's still going because we see the.
it's
The microphone's going, but
so it has to be both video and audio, right? So
yeah, live stream. Then again, you started out, you were okay with it.
yeah,
So if there's a technical failure during the meeting, it doesn't do anything to.
it's still a legal meeting.
It's still a valid meeting. Actions taken, if otherwise properly taken, are valid. Just a technical problem you want us to address.
Good thing we have WCTV filming.
that's right.
Yes, it is. Okay.
So we want to have further discuss. I want to circle back to this so we make sure that we're not further discussions on this with department heads, or do we want to just go ahead and?
I think we probably should ask Ron to
After prototype.
drafting.
That's where that way we have something in front of us.
Exactly, I think, and we can share that with people and ask for their comments.
I agree.
Okay. So do we have?
Do any departments other than the sheriff's department present as being allowed to carry weapons?
Well, the coroner's office has.
But I know that's the question mark.
Yeah. I'm not aware of any other departments, but I'm not sure people would advertise that if they were.
I know we may have initiatives that we have had in the past where I'd like to combine drug task force,
I
city, but I don't know where that stands.
none that I'm aware of. Although there are exclusions for judges, are there? Or not?
Well, judges
County
aren't county
employees.
employees,
But this would not apply to
but we can also have a statute actually allows us then to preclude the weapons
in our building.
in buildings that have courtrooms.
Okay.
And I think I can't imagine the courts not being receptive to that as part of the resolution.
Well, let's ask you to draft an ordinance for us that we can share with other departments and get their feedback and start some discussion on it.
I got some pending things I'm still trying to wrap up. I need to get the resolution for the deeds, for the non-deed sale, but for the properties that we're going to pay to the city. I got that finalized. I think Steve's either got his file or Selena's or both. I'll take a look at to get the legals.
Okay.
And then we have a pending opioid public records request, I think, that you were working on.
Did you get my email on that? I'm not for sure if it went or not. I was having trouble with my email. I sent an email out on the what I found on my computer from past years on selection processes. On
From I know
for opioids.
This was from Mary Ann.
Yes, it was from Mary Ann. Which she
I don't know that you may have followed them. I don't know if you ever adopted them.
I don't think we did. We just started the process.
Not as an ongoing process. We adopted them as the process.
Part of the initial process to invite in proposals or in
Correct. For that first distribution of funds, which was a large amount because it was the first. And so we have fewer dollars now than we.
But I think it'd be fair to say, as we sit here today, none of the three of you feel like there's an existing structured, defined, and unless you decide otherwise, binding process to to process
Yeah. I
future.
the one caveat to that would be that we have asked we're trying to work with the health department, who was required to have an advisory committee as part of the decision-making process on how to use the Health First Indiana dollars. And so we wanted to combine those two groups, use the same group to advise both of us for opioid and Health First. There are still Health First dollars. They're significantly less than they have been. So we'll need to work with Dan
Do
Burke.
they cut that on a fiscal year? Or
It's on a fiscal year.
so we'll catch that cut in the last half of 25.
Correct. So the 25-26 Indiana fiscal year, they'll receive between 400,000 and 500,000 instead of 1.5 million. So it could impact how those dollars are spent, whether they're used internally. I would suspect at the least a higher percentage of those dollars would be used internally within the health department, and a lower percentage used on the collaborative contracts with outside agencies. But that's just a speculation on my part, having been involved in a couple of conversations.
And the last thing, and I think just a talking point, I think maybe if you'd mentioned in passing, when we have properties that go do the detail, or we pull out the detail and sell to a budding owner, under that statute, can we put kind of development restrictions on it? I don't think there'd be a legal prohibition, but I think we'd be really careful how we word those. And the trick will be the clawback. I haven't got my head around what that would look like yet.
Okay. Which is one of the reasons why we're working with a land bank to see if that's going to be an option, because they certainly could do that. Yeah. Okay.
Those were kind of the things that are hanging I'm aware of.
Okay.
And
So I'd like to, so in reference to the opioid, I would suggest, or I would like to see, yeah, let's have a process. I think Aaron's willing to work on that, but
Right.
part of that process, in part of this, we found out that according to the AG report, the city of Richmond has not spent any of their money from day one. And the same thing, it goes back when I first came on as commissioner. I said, wouldn't it be better to have more impactful collaboration between the city? I would invite Aaron to maybe talk to the city and say, okay, can we work together and have a process to spend our opioid money to be more impactful?
I think that we're talking about, in large measure, the same group of people.
It's definitely the city group of people.
Is more than half of the population of.
I just think it makes sense if I agree. Instead of having 300,000, we have $1.3 million or whatever the number is.
Initial allotment, it had to go back.
I'm sorry.
Did the city lose that initial allotment by not spending it?
No, I don't know so.
No, I think
I don't think there's a time limit.
Correct.
on
There's
it.
not. Yeah. It
But
has to be designated for specific.
Well, those are
Yeah.
I think we reach out to them and we make that offer again.
I agree. And along with the Health First committee that we're going to use for the opioid, I would like to use that committee too to come up with a process using them and allowing them to kind of let us know what some of the important guidelines should be used, and then we can come together and decide what that process would look like for a scoring process.
So
I think when I researched it for Jeff early on, I mean, I was shocked at the lack of finite requirements.
exactly.
It just says you need to be transparent in your selection process.
Which always is a red flag, because that's what we look at going in, and then the issue: what will be their standards when they audit us at the tail end? Those may or may not be the same.
So would you recommend that we somehow formalize our process and adopt it as?
Well, or if it involves other governmental entities or public agencies, a memorandum of understanding, I think would be very appropriate.
Okay. Okay. I think that makes sense. So let's move in that direction. Reach out to the city, see if they have interest in working together on the process and co-funding, making some determination that if the city funds this, then we can add to that, or we can shift our funds to something else that they're not funding. So let's work towards that.
Good.
And are we meeting on the 28th?
Yes.
Okay, good. And we're only then at that point, one meeting. I'm reading my calendar right now. 2 meetings. 2 meetings after that, but we need to convene the redevelopment commission and determine captures for 25, pay 26.
Okay. I saw that. So we need to reappoint committee members? We do that in January for this year.
Right, so I can see. We typically do all of that at this meeting. Because, yeah.
Okay.
But
Bobby, can you research when we last appointed the members of the redevelopment commission? I think it's supposed to be an annual appointment.
we kept up. The way it reads in the statute, and the way our certificate of appointment reads, it's for a 1-year term beginning as of January 1 at year X and ending December 31 year X, or until their successors have been duly.
Or forever if we don't appoint somebody to replace them.
I mean, we don't. All the legislation, but TIF and all that. I mean,
Right.
It's people that are bad actors that are creating hassles for the rest of us.
And
Pretty conservative.
okay.
That's it.
So at this meeting in June, we'll determine how much of the assessed value we're going to capture.
And in the past, our position has been that recently to capture all that we could in anticipation of infrastructure demands.
Exactly.
And the industrial park itself.
And there are
Water tower.
there are infrastructure demands, and we still haven't paid ourselves back for the full cost of
No, it's about $1 million
20 years ago.
need to balance on that. It doesn't draw interest. And it's not a legal obligation. It is a permissible expenditure.
Exactly.
So that's the context.
So we probably need to have some conversation with the at the very least the council appointments to the redevelopment commission on where we see this going and what percentage of assessed value we want to capture.
Last year, you took
I'm the commissioner's appointment. Yeah.
Kyle Clark.
I think John Cady, a member, and then
Now it rings a bell. We appointed him this year,
I think we did.
or reappointed him. What?
Reappointed him for 24. I'm not sure we did for 25.
Yeah, and
Maybe we did.
Sure.
I just remember.
Yeah, we definitely did it for 24.
Yeah.
All the years I was
follow up with John. Okay, and then and Gary Songary and Beth Leisure are the appointments of the council. Okay. Anything else? Other questions for Ron? Okay. Steve?
All right, starting out with your list on the annex generator.
all next one of those, Steve. I'm just kind of anal about having keep it.
Give him. Yeah. It's right there in front.
This is my stack.
That's the list.
At the top. It's the upper left-hand card. It's May 21st, 513.
Oh, that's pieces 513. Pass that over to John. It's 5:20 on. Simone.
Amy. Okay. All right. Looking at your list, then on the annex generator, recall that punch list completed. Through those things, a couple of them been resolved. The training that was required has been scheduled. That will take place. You're on site by the actual generator folks. There's about a 2-hour training session that's required under the specifications of the contract. There has been a couple of resolutions on the punch list items and the resolution was to the satisfaction of DLZ. Remember, we've not been given nor we have accepted the substantial completion document. So we've not reached that point. When that finally gets generated, unless you have some other thoughts, remember the claim that we talked about to make that
Follow up. Yeah. Find out.
for substantial. On the fairgrounds parking, I know that Brandon and Gordon were supposed to go out there last Thursday. I have not talked to either one of those as to how that's going on the drainage for the parking lot. We can ask Brandon when he comes in for his spot coming in. On the maintenance building security fence, I have 2 quotes. Remember that we've asked for a third, but we did not receive a response. We made 3 inquiries to that particular company and did get a response back. So he made inquiries to Privacy Connection, a firm north of Richmond. Did not get any response back. He made inquiry to Oler Fence and an inquiry to Eagle Fence. Eagle Fence is out of Ohio, although they do business in Wayne County extensively according to their records. So the 2 quotes, the high quote was the Eagle Fence, and this is to replace the entire fence around the maintenance building as well as the gate and the barbed wire at the top and posts. The quote for Eagle Fence was $14,965, and the Oler Fence quote was $11,200, and they both quoted exactly the same size post, length of fence, et cetera, et cetera. So they're equivalent bids. I know that we talked possibly adding to that with the hiding the mechanicals on the other side of the courthouse, because Oler was the contractor that's in our current contract to provide the screening around the transformers. So those are the 2 quotes that I have. And
How are we paying for this? What is that out of your order?
Yeah, building and grounds. Yeah. Building and grounds funding. If you guys haven't had a chance to look at the condition of the existing facts, there's no particular urgency to this. Take a look. See, my understanding was that Oler is the subcontractor for putting the fence, I'll call it, around the screen around. No, this is around the electrical side of the courthouse. And so we talked about using the same material to close in with for security purposes, the arch on the west side of the courthouse with a gate for access, locking gate. And so Oler would be an option to bid on both of those projects. And would it be less expensive to have to award both of those fencing projects?
Right. And you've asked LWC to give us a cost estimate on that addition as well as the concrete replacement west side of the courthouse.
And looked at that area earlier this week, and the drive up to that arch on the west side of the courthouse is all broken up and could be made wider. So we asked LWC to look at what that looked like.
Well, we discussed that last week or the week before or something about having a turnaround for the sheriff's department or something.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough to have a sure had two vans up there. There were two sheriff's vans there yesterday. It was pretty tight. But I would suggest you table these until we get those cost estimates.
I think we should. But we need to. We don't want this to fall off the radar. It won't because it's under the list here, Sean.
There we go. That's great. That's great. You're going to have all sorts of lists. Hey, we want to keep these projects moving for like my go home. And I've got all these lists for me to do. You got to see work. I get into all.
Okay, but we don't call this a honeydew.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. This other fits your honey.
And then
It's your Stevie do.
It's my Stevie do. Yeah. Then the courthouse fire entrance, as you can see, it seems to be moving slow to my estimation. Hopefully once they get the walls poured, it'll move a little faster. One thing we do need to start zeroing in on, if you give me some guidance on how you want to do this, we did get the cut sheets on the lights and the ballards and the screening. You made a determination on the screening and then the landscaping. So to me that
On the landscaping,
we got to zero in on what you want to do.
okay, right.
And
Yeah.
we need to have those conversations. So
Yeah. And I think, have you been able to get an estimate on that one giant tree on the south end of
yet, although I have put out requests for that.
To me, that's a safety issue that we need to try to deal with. And if there are any other trees that either need to be trimmed or
I think
taken out.
you had suggested during this landscaping conversation that we include, remember the assessment we had done on all the planning,
Right.
and include that in part of that conversation. So
But I guess my point is it may take up the full allocation of landscaping just to try to address some of the trees that are in the worst condition.
I had a tree company reach out to me that has done work here before, has worked with you, and I said I would let you know, and or you guys come in contact because they would like to put a bid on that. So I said that be through you. So thank you.
So tell me how you want to decide on lights, bollards.
Have you sent that out to all three of us?
I
I got an email on it.
thought I did, but if I didn't, I'll resend it. And
Okay.
I think then after that, what do you want to do? We need to.
And I guess part of my decision process there would be, are they all the same cost? And was there a particular style that was included in the bid?
And I'll reread the email from LWC, but I think that was the cut sheets, which is the specifications that was used to create the bid.
But there's like 4 different types of bollards that are on
I think,
there. So
again, I'll read that, but I think that you get to pick.
there are any of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been some time ago. We looked at that, right?
Well, I just got the cut sheets on this last week.
Got 'em.
But we talked about it.
You would have got
Didn't we get some from LWC on the different types of lights?
Early on in the process. Early on when we were determining the scope of the project, we did. But these that we just got is what was used by the contractor to create his bid.
right.
Okay.
And so it seems unlikely to me that all 4 of the 4 or 5 different bollard styles would be included at the same price. So I think
You did send that email on Monday the 5th. I'm sorry to interrupt.
The 5th?
Looking forward to it. I'm sorry,
that would have been
Monday the 19th.
Monday.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Monday the 19th. I'm sorry.
Past 2 days
Yes.
from Steve.
Again, we need to zero in on this.
So are you saying that we need to make a decision today?
No. Okay. I'm asking you, do you want to set a special session at our next meeting? Just talk about this?
Yes, let's do that.
That's what I would suggest.
And let's have any additional information that we need on the pricing so that we know if we choose option A, it costs $5,000 more.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing. And then the lights, I seem to recall we talked about trying to match the lights that are on Main Street. And there are pictures of those, but then the specifications seem to call for a single pole with a single globe light at the top. So let's get some clarification before for the next meeting when we discuss this.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to be hit by an add-on to the to the dollar amount because we pick something that is not cost more. So, what else?
And then on the prox card system, the next page, that document you have in your stack, it what will go out to the ARP has elected officials. First two paragraphs simply a narrative to explain what we're doing with project, what we need, and why we need it. And then right center of that document, those will be the 6 questions that we will ask each department head elected official to give us this information for each employee that they have. And then I provide some examples so they knew how to consider when they're.
So, Steve, each door that is controlled by a prox card lock has a separate code,
As a set of, so you can
address.
yeah, an IP address.
Yeah. And so for a particular employee, you could identify 3 doors that they could access, but none of the other doors.
Yeah, it's just a check. You have all the doors on there and you have a check. You just check what doors they have access.
And they'll be able to, it's my understanding that the software also will indicate the time of day that it's at.
Yep.
Okay. So
You can
might be able to access that door from 8 to 5,
For example,
not after hours or on the weekend.
for example, a probation officer, I use this as an example. They come and go to a court where the west upper door is always locked. So they would need access to that throughout the day, but not weekends. Same way because every probation officer except one is assigned to the U.S. Bank lot, and the lower level east door for them to come in, and that would be programmed into their card so that they could access that coming to work.
when they were on call though, they will have to have evening you can access depending on
Maybe. I'll clarify that with Corey, and that we'll have people on call like building and grounds too, but not every building and grounds person will have on call status.
Right.
So
So
those who do, maybe when they come in on call, they would come in south door instead of the east door.
So there's just some examples that, and I would picture that the majority just simply have an ID card because they have no reason to be here after hours or before business opens up. Correct. And so they would not have any prox card capability.
So have we started the process of buying?
Yeah, Dale has reached out to the contractor to send us that information of what we need so that, and remember at the last security meeting, HR will be doing the identification cards and Homeland Security will be doing the prox cards.
And Kim's working on the policy for identification.
Yep. Remember, you've seen the draft of that.
Right.
And you'll have that final draft next week. Remember, we presented it to the department head elected officials for their input. And so I'll incorporate any changes. Didn't receive just a few. Ever had the clarification from the deputy prosecutor on where they fell in the system. So you'll get that, what I think should be the final draft next week, and we need to adopt that.
Okay. So we'll move that along.
Yep.
You don't anticipate independent contractors like me that don't need access after hours to issue prox card.
Say it again.
You don't anticipate somebody like me that I normally don't need access after.
Correct. I don't think I would give it to you.
BZA's locking me out or thanking me.
Oh, that's right. I got you.
That's their
He needs full access 24/7.
24/7.
No,
Okay.
get up well,
And he gets to carry a gun too.
Oh, shoot.
He wants to. More power.
But I don't know what you're going to
Probably needs it.
these guns.
Oh,
How do you keep you from carrying these?
I think age has resolved all that.
You're saying they're not loaded? Is that what you're saying?
Good for me.
Okay. And then the courthouse elevator, we've had all the material removed, and so we're ready to go to the next step. And I think our last conversation with Kevin would be in that direction.
So LWC is coming up with the
Specs for the flue removal, not the elevator yet. We're talking about just the flue removal, what that would entail, and that.
yeah. So the last time we talked, the thinking was that would include opening your doorway, floors 1, 2, and 3, so that they have access to actually remove that flue through those doors, which also would require moving the memorial second floor. So
Yeah.
that's gonna
let's go get that process.
tough.
and we need to finally decide where's it going to go.
Yeah, because we were going to move that no matter what.
Yes.
So we need to keep focused on that so that can become part of the specs.
All right. Any questions on that report? No. All right. And then the next thing you have in the stack is I put out a request for who's going to be requesting vehicles for next year. And that's in your packet. And highlighted is the number that's associated with a particular department. So only the coroner, the highway department, the sheriff department are requesting vehicles for next year. So, the coroner is requesting to replace the Tahoe that we transferred there. He has indicated they want 3 transport trucks rather than just 2. Remember, he's indicated that the Tahoe isn't long enough to transport a body. And
So if we knew that, he told us initially that he was never going to transfer it.
exactly right.
Right.
So
This was it was more of a courtesy vehicle to give him.
Correct.
so currently they have a van, a pickup truck, and
A full-size bed pickup truck.
and an SUV.
Correct.
Okay, and so he wants to just replace that SUV with either a truck or a full-size SUV. I thought they had
He cited that an expedition
expedition or
excursion,
suburban maybe, or
has a longer space in it.
I expect it does. And they're
Of course,
a lot bigger.
if we do a third transport vehicle, then we're talking also all the equipment that goes in it too.
Right.
Um,
The cot and the
yep, the lifts, just all that, and then it's got to get plugged in.
right.
So
Now the highway department is just we don't normally, the fleet committee doesn't normally look at the snowplow trucks and the heavy equipment, but he is indicating to replace 3 full-size trucks with snowplows and then 1 pickup truck. And then the sheriff, remember, he made 5 requests for this year, and he's indicating he doesn't know how many to put in for next year. I did ask the question, how many would you need over 2 years? If you only got 1 this year, what would it mean for 26? If you got 5 and 25, what would it mean for 26? And I didn't get a response. So I did follow up. Remember that the state, and I passed this information out to you last week, that the state had put these out for bid requests. They got the response back, and they had put their recommendations. This is the QPA, this is the procurement department, had put their recommendations for award recommendations, and I gave that to you last week. And the idea was to multiple award these cars so that they had multiple dealers throughout the state. That has been put on hold to put that in a QPA because of the tariffs They wanted to wait. The state wanted to wait before they put this out for a QPA to see how the tariffs would impact the price of these cars. So we're back to where we were. I think to Brad's point last week, that we go ahead and put this out for a bid.
We got the specs all ready to go.
And send this to specifically those dealers that responded to the state bid, in addition to advertise it, and then see what we get.
I think we should.
No, I agree.
They followed with that.
So this will be presented at the, if you want to refer this, I'd like you to refer this to the fleet committee.
Yes.
Because that's our purchasing policy.
Question about the highway.
Yep.
The 3 trucks with snowplows, are we talking like the large?
Yeah. The big,
The big dump truck. Okay. Okay. I'm with. Okay.
Okay.
you want to refer this?
Yes, we do.
Do we need to?
It's up to you if you want to motion it.
We don't need to, do we?
We need.
No, because the fleet committee is going to defer it back to us.
Well,
I mean, it's kind of the
you know, I think at this, our meeting tonight, obviously with 2 members from council there, that's be part of the discussion. But
I think let's have a motion to refer to the fleet committee, and if there is no objection, to authorize advertising of the
I'll make that motion. You talking about the bid for the sheriff
for
vehicle?
the sheriff's.
Okay. Yes, I make that bid.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All the same sign. Motion carries.
then the next item is this is that Stevie Do list. I quickly, did you say Scooby Doo list? Yeah, Stevie Do.
Stevie dude.
Let's hold that thought. Because Brandon is here. Let's do that. It was after 10:15. So Brandon, why don't you come on up? Thank you, sir.
Morning.
Good morning.
Make it quick and simple for you. Our Bridge Avenue projects, Bridge 705 and 712, are ready to approve the plans. They've been reviewed by Armage as well as NDOT, and it meets the original scope. So we're ready to sign off on those. I've printed off the 2 title sheets for you to look at. Yeah. They also provided that 1 page just of the title block signature that will go onto the overall plan set. So
Okay, so if we approve this, we need to sign
just the one in your right.
just this one. Okay. Because those are pretty small lines that to sign.
I just wanted to show you where that signature block is going to go on the plans.
And so these are 2 separate bridges, but we're going to bid them together as one project.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're approving to go ahead and take it to bid.
Correct. Yes. These will go to letting in October of this year.
All right, I like that motion. We have a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve the bidding on these 2 bridges. We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Has lines for all 3 of us to sign.
Thank you for that. That's all I have.
Did you and Gordon get a chance to get out to the fairgrounds? Well, start range.
We finalize who's doing what. So
Thanks, Brandon. Thank you. Oh, by the way, our Congressman Shreve, we adopted a letter of support for federal funding for the projects, 1 other bridge and a bridge in Union County. Okay. So sent that through NDOT to Congressman Shreve to get his support.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome. I'll pass that on down to Brandon. And Steve, let's go back to.
All right.
Thanks, Brandon.
Appreciate it.
So this top page, this spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet has 6 categories in it. I can't tell you that there's a specific definition of why they fell in particular categories. It just seemed to make sense to me that some of them were actually a procedure that needs to be created. Some of them deal with personnel issues. Some of them are in the information gathering stage. And then obviously facility projects, which we've talked about over the past several months. There may or may not be funding identified in this current list you see here. They're not they're not categorized by building. They're not categorized by whether it's security issues or ATA issues. That can be done after you've had a chance to look at these, and they're not categorized by priority as well. So as you look at that and digest that, keep that in mind. But I think we want to get to the point where we put these in buildings so that you can focus on a building at a time, or focus on a type of project. If it's an ADA project, if it's a security project, if it's an upgrade project, if it's a replacement, and then prioritize those so that we can focus on a particular project with some priority. If you'll notice on this spreadsheet down at the lower left-hand corner in that project list, it says the DLZ 2015 facility report. That is your next document that you have. Brad, Aaron, you've probably not seen this. This is a summary of the overall report. The overall report is considerably bigger because it has more specific information. So this provides you with some narrative of what they determined, why they determined certain things to be priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, what their urgent recommendations would have been at the time, what you should look at. And then if you get into starting on page 6, you can start to see the items that were identified by this assessment, and this has been separated out per building. It includes the highway department and includes the fairgrounds. The items that on there that I have highlighted in yellow are items that we have completed. So the next number of pages up to page 15 are those summaries for each building in our inventory. And then if you look at the last page in that report, these were the suggested priorities at the time. And I think we pretty well taken care of all of those, with the exception, we didn't do anything with we did evaluate the heating and cooling system in the old public health building, which is now the WellCare building. We did not do any upgrades to that. The rest of that has been completed, those priorities.
So for example, we completed virtually everything at the jail.
The jail, yes.
And we did that because we had jail bonds funding that could be used on capital projects, and the intention there was to essentially deliver as functional and new a building as we could. We terminated the bond and ended up paying that off, and it's been 5 or 6 years now since I think 3 or 4 years since we actually paid it off. And the 0.25% income tax that funded that drops off was eliminated. So at that point we went from a 1.5% income tax to 1.25%. But we had enough money to do virtually all of these, and then all of these projects that were identified for the jail at the time.
And then also on that top sheet, the next report is the DLZ security report, and that's your next document that you have here. List. This was focused on just security issues. And again, I'll let you look at that at your leisure. Some have been done, most have not. Mostly because of the cost. Some of them were pretty easy to do, which we've done. But
Hey, we're doing number 29.
There you go.
there you go. Yes, we are. All right. And then the next document is the most recent annex security assessment. And again, some of these items on there we've done. What we don't have yet, and I asked Randy about it today, is the most recent security assessment for the courthouse, if you remember. And there'll be some items on there that identify that needs to be done.
That's the one we discussed at the last security.
And
Deputy
according to Randy, Allen is looking at it for the final look through, and then it will be distributed to you probably the next couple of minutes. So I think you need, you need to look at this, right? And you need to start thinking. And in the meantime, I'll separate out on the main page of categories for buildings so that you can see where that stands with respect to number of projects in a particular category, like, ADA. I might mention under ADA issues, everything that was listed in the DLC report that was identified as an ADA issue was made part of our ADA transition plan. And so that was commissioner approved, and we work off that each year. We do an ADA project each year off that list. Remember, we did the bathrooms here one year, we did the bathrooms across the street next year. We've done we've obviously done ADA parking. We lowered some desks for folks. So there's things that we've done off that list, but there's still things to do. But again, it takes money.
And we're making significant progress. And of course, the courthouse entrance plaza is an ADA project. Correct. So move forward with those as we have funding available. Right. Let's stop again. Mike Sharp is here, and it is virtually 10:30. So Mike, come on up, and we'll take care of your issues today. You got the annual report?
Yes. But you have a good pause back.
He does.
Pause button.
You're not hot. It's the mute button.
Yeah, that's correct.
So this is our annual operations report that we turn into the state. It's got the bridge and highway sort of on it. So I think on the last page is the signature page for the commissioners.
Okay. What are the highlights that you want to point out here, Mike? Since you're on television right now.
Well, it's basically all the figures. It's what money's came in, what money's gone out. Don't have it all memorized per se, but no.
Are we in a sound financial condition in the highway department?
We could be better.
Well, there were a lot of changes to highway funding coming out of the legislature this year, so we'll see how.
That was my question. Better in what way? Like more money?
Yeah.
Not that you've spent more than we had coming in. That's
Right.
okay.
And I'll be getting there's another report that'll probably make more sense to you guys as far as what we did last year. Our 24 kind of our road report of what we done.
Right.
That'll be forthcoming here shortly.
Okay.
We want to get this one done. This one's due first, I think. So
Okay. This is
this is basically just figures, financial part of it. So
you need to sign off on so that you can turn.
I didn't make copies for you because if you're going to look at the figures, you're going to say, well, that's it. So the other report will actually kind of show you what the work we've done and so forth. Just kind of looking at the figures, you know, our dollars that we spend on the roads have gone up. But if you look over the last 30 years, we may have doubled our income that we've got coming in or that we're putting into the roads, but the cost to actually do the work is quadrupled.
Yeah.
So
We're growing up faster than our revenue.
right. So the revenue, so that's kind of the bigger point to look at is, you know, we're maintaining what we're trying to maintain and try to keep the potholes away and things like that, but we're just not progressing and moving ahead forward.
And we are one of the few counties in eastern Indiana that does not have a wheel tax.
All right. I think all the surrounding counties all have it. So, you know, I know it's something that council and commissioners will probably be looking at for some funding that it's going to be mandated towards it. To receive the funding, you have to have a wheel tax in place.
Right. So the legislature is pushing us in that direction. And I think, you know, one of the comments from legislators is we would make sure that the counties are and cities are taking advantage of all the options that we give them to raise money. And so this year they have tied our revenue from community crossings to whether or not we have imposed a wheel tax. And without going into great detail, it changed several times exactly what they were going to require. But in the final iteration, my understanding is that there is a new pot of money that will be awarded based on lane miles to those entities that have imposed a wheel tax.
I think they've taken roughly around $300 million is what's been going in community crossings, and that's going to be going down to $100 million, and then distributed based upon applications. But then the other money of that part is going to be based on lane miles. But to get that part of the money, then it's going to be contributed to wheel tax.
So it is a significant amount of money that would not be open to us if we do not adopt a wheel tax. So I know council is aware of that, and they're looking at options.
I think September 1st is kind of the deadline on that.
Exactly. So it'll be this summer kind of thing. So that if
Is that in the budget bill or is it in?
it was in the highway funding bill, which I'm trying to remember, it was a House bill.
1460 or 61.
1461.
I think you're right. And so, you know, we need to look at that option, weigh the pros and cons. It's been quite a while since we looked at.
I believe the cities and towns can also pass a wheel tax separately. And then if you live in the city or town, then you would pay, if the county passed one, you would pay the county plus you'd have to pay the city.
Oh, right. So if the county passes it, it's divided among the cities and towns. I think only in Wayne County, only Richmond has that option. I think there's a requirement that there are at least 10,000 residents.
I thought that's what you said.
To be able to do it. So if the city adopts it and the county adopts it, people in Richmond, is my understanding, would pay twice. So the only thing I don't know on that is whether each entity can adopt the full, the highest level of the tax, so they'd be paying double. But again, you know, the money that goes into county roads and bridges is a different set of roads and bridges than what the city or the towns have to contend with. So, you know, we don't put any of our money towards repaving city streets. So that's what the city's wheel tax would allow them to do if they adopted it. So that's coming. Any questions on on the report, the annual financial report? If not, do I have a motion to approve the report?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Other than the fact that I think our roads are in great shape and what the budget that you've had and what you've done, I get very little to no complaints about our roads. I drive the roads a lot in Wayne County and they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
So
You guys and your teams do great. We realize it's real social interstate.
yeah. No, we don't take care of the interstate.
Yeah,
We don't take care of
don't-
streets within the city.
Well, and that's another issue is the intersections of county roads and state roads. The state controls those intersections up to the stop signs. Is my understanding. Is that
Well, most intersections they go past the stop signs, they go back into our road farther. But what I've kind of worked out with the state is we will carry up to the stop sign, but then from the stop sign out to the state road is the sign of theirs, even though back farther is theirs. But we had to cut a cutting point there somewhere, so that's kind of where we set up was the stop signs.
and what I find is most of the complaints of potholes that I get are in that intersection or on the state road.
Agreed.
Not on the road before the stop sign. So again, you guys do a great job, and we appreciate what you do. So with that, we did vote. We did vote. Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now I can so I do some verming in the southern part.
Is what?
You do some verming in the southern part of.
Yes.
Very nice job compared to what I witnessed just a little bit farther south.
I drive a lot throughout the state and a lot of county roads, and ours are definitely,
You said you wanted
No,
to go into
maintain.
Union
and
County.
I really appreciate you both.
I usually try to be a good
For what budget we have, y'all do well.
farmer and mow my roadsides, and I had an 8-inch differential in elevation with my 0-turn mower that I paid more than for. I did for my first house. I couldn't, just wouldn't. Do it.
Yeah.
Thank you. One other question I had was we had to buy some locks for the speed signs that 4 hours up, but essentially 16 more or whatever. I didn't know if you want us to pick up that cost. Would you guys like to
Thank you.
handle that cost?
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
For bringing it up?
For picking up the cost. You made that offer. I took you up on it.
Okay. I didn't offer. I just asked.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. And if you ever need anything else, let us know.
I won't ask.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Steve,
No, you get
I've interrupted you twice. Can you?
I think you would bring this back.
Well, then just you tell me what you want next step.
I think we probably need to absorb this a little bit. We want to then come back and discuss some of these projects.
Yeah, I think what I envision is more now that we have this list, kind of put them in a prioritized
Exactly.
list of okay, we want to do this and then how we're going to pay for it and have those discussions.
I think some of these can come off the list. It didn't get done because we decided at some point that it didn't need to be done or just for direction. I think there's some things that we'll probably want to add to this list or rearrange. And remember that these lists and the reports predate on Brad's tenure and certainly Aaron's tenure. But they also predate ARPA. And so when we got into the ARPA dollars, that took a lot of the priority and paid for our projects. But it was important to get the ARPA projects committed and done.
And they were all generally bigger projects.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So some of these are pretty small projects
Sure.
that still need to be done, but
And if you look at the sheriff, for example, where we had some funding from the jail bond, the only thing that didn't get done was painting of the steel or iron, whatever it is. And so we may want to go back to that and say, okay, where are we at now? At this point, does painting that stuff get the job done, or do we need to replace any of it because it's deteriorated in the last 5 years? So we need to review some of this. And obviously we'll be looking for recommendations from you on where we're at and what some of the higher priorities are from your perspective and Dale's. So I think we'll want to include you and Dale in those conversations as well. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? No, sir. No. All right. We have the documentation on the appraisal. So I think under your agenda, we've got the information that we got from Buckland and Associates on appraisals for insurance purposes. We did not do an appraisal last year. It's been a couple of years, and what really struck me was that if you add up all the different numbers here in their quote, it's about $70,000. 70,000, where in the past it's been like 5,000. So I think pretty clearly we're not on the same page as to what they're proposing to be done versus what we have done in the past. I can't imagine that laying out for 1 year, where we had our insurance company actually do the appraisals, is going to change the cost that dramatically. But there's also, and Steve, maybe you can explain this a little better than I can. We've done appraisals for the insurance company. We've also done appraisals for the capital equipment reporting that we do for the state. And so I'm not clear on which is which, because when we do the capital reporting inventory for the state, isn't it limited to things that are cost more than $25,000?
Yeah, that was the threshold.
Threshold we set.
That you could set that, and that's what we set. So it didn't include obviously a lot.
And it's pretty much only buildings and car or vehicles, where sure there were a few other things, but so I'm going to suggest that we have some folks contact and speak to Buckland about exactly what we're talking about here and what it accomplishes for us, and then also maybe talk to Lions about what do we need for the insurance company.
What's the market looking like right now?
Market for the renewal of insurance. I talked to Mike last week as we were putting together our budget, and he talked to Andy and got back with me and recommended their best guess is the increase will be somewhere between 8 and 12%, and we probably should count on putting 10% into our budget as an increase, and we did that. We're supposed to get numbers here before the budget hearings actually start. Obviously, the renewal is scheduled for July 1, so we need it before that. But we also needed to be able to tell council what the potential increase would be. So Mike said the best scenario would be to include a 10% increase. Cost would probably be less than a lot of folks because we're well covered and well funded and have good processes in place. So hopefully we'll be on the low end of that spectrum.
I think a lot of our department policies and county policies help keep our insurance rates low. Thankfully, we have some good leaders and a lot of our departments taking care of a lot of different issues, and being able to help keep that insurance rate low because of that.
The reality is you're looking at macro data that is not
Absolutely.
it's not necessarily locally sensitive.
Right.
What all the floods and fires and earthquakes and hurricanes and so on. It's just nationwide.
Well, and I had a conversation with Mike also, but he's said that that's the worst case scenario, 10%. And he says we're probably looking a lot better than that because of what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But covering the worst case.
Yeah, worst case
at this
scenario,
point
so.
for the budget, I think makes sense.
Yep.
But on this reappraisals, I mean, so when we did this 2 years ago, it was a reappraisal of buildings that we did. And that's what he's putting in here, reappraisal fees of $2,300. But I don't know, because we didn't do it last year, they're saying, okay, now you got to start all over again. I believe that's what they're saying. And then
That's the way I read it.
But I can't imagine we were told that last year when we decided to skip a year. It would go from
probably not.
5,000 to 70,000.
I'm glad to see these fees in there like that. As an appraiser myself.
Well, I'm not as a non-appraiser myself.
I just think the 2-year period means there may be additional equipment that's been added and, all that.
But again, which appraisal is this? So
This is for insurance replacement.
I think so.
You have a fire, you have a tornado, because this insures like flagpole, anything like that, where our capital asset report is just simply what we identify as assets for the county and not necessarily at place.
That had it.
Okay. Oh, that was part of the gas thing or whatever that.
But don't we have to do that every?
Well, that's supposed to be all standard. Do we?
All right, but remember we set that threshold at 25,000. This doesn't have a threshold. They're gonna look at furniture and they say replacement cost new, each group of item with replacement cost new.
Right. So I guess what I'm proposing is that we communicate with Buckland and with our carrier, and we sort out.
I would agree with that. So we get a clearer picture of what.
Are you willing to be involved in this?
Absolutely. This is my world. So
exactly. So yeah, if you can talk to Lyons and then maybe both of you follow up with Buckland and figure out, is this what we need to do for insurance purposes? Because if having the insurance company do it for us last year ends up costing us $65,000 extra, maybe that was not the best approach to take.
We do that because we changed carriers. Is that why they did it?
I think so, but
I remember this conversation vaguely, and I thought they recommended it was in our best interest to have reappraisals done.
and I don't recall.
But yeah, I don't remember
Every
the
year.
specific. Yeah,
Not every year.
not every year, because
Again,
we actually talked to Lyons and he said no, every other year is fine.
but if we do it every year for $5,000 a year as opposed to
60.
every other year at 70,000 or 2 years, that doesn't make sense to ever let that happen again.
Right.
So, okay.
I can talk to Mike. I'll talk to Lions, and then if me and Steve want to do a conference call with them, and I can be on that. And
That sounds like a good idea to me.
you know, if there's any technical questions or anything, I can be on there.
Okay, great. We'll move forward, and we'll need a relatively quick decision on this, I think, to get things done, get things moving. Okay. Do you have claims?
I do.
Let's go ahead and do those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the commissioner's minutes from May 14th, 2025.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the minutes of last week's meeting. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Both same sign. Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the executive session from May 14th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the executive session of last week. Any further discussion?
It's going to be an executive session and follow up to that first meeting. I was drinking.
There will be another executive session, yes, at some point in the next few weeks. If there's nothing else, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
About the same sign, motion carries.
And I'd like to move to approve following claims: MasterCard paid 5/15/2025. Advanced draw Centerville Abington Schools dated 5/15/2025. And general claim dated 5/21/2025.
How much was that advance draw percent reliability?
It was for grand total $1,260,474.35.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else? Is that it?
Not about this, but I do have something else when you're ready.
Go ahead.
I would like to revisit the furniture for Superior Court 1. I would like to go ahead pending the financial funding for that, deciding how it's going to be paid. I would like to go ahead and move forward and go ahead and approve the purchase of it pending where the financials are going to come from.
It's the dark brown color.
With the dark brown color, so that the judge, I mean, we're talking, it's going to be June 1st soon. He's been there for almost 6 months, and I'd like to move forward and get that accomplished for him so we can get moving.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion, please.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Or same sign. Motion carries. Bobby, what have you got for us?
I have nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
You usually
Have a whole list. Colonel Flink now? I have nothing. I have nothing.
Brad, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay.
Has council done anything on appointing its member to the
To the local health board. I don't believe they've met since we
We probably need to let them know.
it's effective
July.
in June. June's going to be at the June meeting, and after that, that'll be his last meeting. So
I think we should probably let council know tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe say health board and us will make recommendations once we get a list.
okay. Anything further? You got anything else, Rock? Steve? Wayne? All right. I have a nagging feeling that there was something else that I wanted to discuss, but we got another shot tonight at the workshop if there is. If there's nothing else, we'll adjourn.